Well, Postbank has assured Sassa grant beneficiaries that there will be no glitches with payouts this month. Payments are expected to be made tomorrow, even as some beneficiaries are still waiting for last month's funds. Now, thousands of people were left in the lurch due to technical glitches and hitches at Postbank. Well, the bank is assuring the public that it has technicians on standby to ensure a quick response should any problems occur again this month. eNCA's Hloni Mtimkulu joins me now with more details on this. And Hloni, a very warm good morning to you. I mean, let's talk about exactly what Postbank is saying, particularly on the back payments that were still owed to some beneficiaries. Are they saying they have assured that everyone is paid, and is that the case?
Yeah, good morning, Dumela. It's a cold morning out at the Shawela Post Office in Soweto. This is, of course, one of the payment points where people can come, and recipients have been directed from retailers to come and check what is happening with their Sassa social grants. That was in September because, of course, the Postbank services are accessed from inside post offices. So we had been told last month already that with that system glitch and everything else being ironed out around that all recipients had been paid. But as we kept coming to post offices, we realized that that wasn't the case. And this wasn't just in Johannesburg, this wasn't just in Gauteng, but we had our colleagues around the country realizing the same thing, that there are still people that haven't been paid. And of course, Novesuthu was speaking to someone in Malmesbury on Friday, and they still hadn't been paid. Today, I was here now, and I just spoke to people who've gone inside, and they still hadn't received the full balance of their 2,080 that they were meant to get last month. So there are still people who are not sorted out, as it were. And actually, there were people who told me in the line earlier that some people even turned back and stopped coming. So it hasn't quite been resolved in terms of people receiving their money, whether on Postbank side, you know, their system challenges, their glitches, that's all been sorted out. But in terms of people actually receiving their funding, that hasn't quite worked out or hasn't quite been sorted out. And I certainly know also that, you know, they don't know, the people that I spoke to today, some of them weren't sure if they would then be able to receive all the balance from last month, if that would come into October. And that was also part of the issue last month as well, when we spoke to people who had only received some of their funding, because of course not all of it would come out. Some of them would only receive like half of it, some of them even less than half, like 600 Rand or 700 Rand, and they weren't sure if it would be paid in as additionally to the amount that would be paid in October. So it's going to be interesting what happens over the next 3 days on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, whether, first of all, the normal pay run will happen, but also if it does happen and those that were not paid fully last month, if that money will be topped up. Postbank did say, of course, that their systems are fine, but we will have to see. But we did speak to some people outside the post office before it opened. It opened at around 8:30, and this is what some of them had to say.
Yeah, it was very hectic for the people who are supposed to get their grants. I was worried also by the grannies and our Mkulus. So I'm hoping that tomorrow everything will be okay. And we are appealing to our government to put their systems in place so that people can get their money, because there is where they rely for everything they want to have.
So, Hloni, how's it looking ahead of the October pay cycle?
I think this is what we're going to have to see between tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, that people will be paid. You know, I think last month was interesting because at the beginning of that cycle, around the 7th or the 8th, when, you know, kind of the scale of the technical glitch became known, Postbank had initially said to us that about 460,000 people were affected by this glitch. Then when they held that media briefing a few days later, the first one, then that number was revised to 600,000. So I think it's interesting that of all the people that we keep speaking to in the lines all over, everyone is aware of what has happened. So I wonder if, in terms of the scale of it, is it really 600,000 people? Could it possibly be even more than the 600,000 people, you know? But we'll have to see, I think, over the next few days what does happen. And if that technical glitch, if the glitches with the system, whatever it was that caused the delays, the reversals that had to be done manually, the issues around people getting, especially the gold cards, those with gold cards had to be paid, if those will be sorted out. But again, just to repeat that some people still have not received their funding for September, some still only with some of that amount with the disability, and the old age is 2080 with the child grant is 500 Rand. And of course, there's that additional top-up of 10 Rand that does come into effect from this month as well in October. So we will have to see, Tumelo, if all of that goes off without a glitch.
Yeah, and also, I mean, in terms of the number of people that got affected by the glitch, perhaps give us some context here, Hloni, and also the timelines of exactly how we got here, because oftentimes when we try to get some answers from, Postbank or even the government, we were told that they are resolving the problem, but more and more people were still saying, Hloni, to us that they either hadn't been paid or were partially paid.
Yeah, and you know what their systems, that is Postbank, was saying to them versus what was on the ground seems to be two very different things, or just things that weren't talking to each other, because we again kept seeing that people were not being paid. NGOs around kept saying that they are in contact with people who had not been paid. And this wasn't just here where we are, this wasn't just in Lenasia, in town, in the CBD of Joburg where we were, but also in the Eastern Cape as well, in the Western Cape as well. So you can imagine, if you're just thinking about a few provinces, how many more? And even at the press briefing, people were also talking about other people from around the country in Limpopo as well that hadn't been paid. So you have to wonder if it really is the 460,000 or the 600,000, whichever number it is, that were affected, if we'll actually know the full scale of the people that were affected. I do know that about 5.2 million beneficiaries that Postbank does pay out, they said, for the old age grant, for the disability grant, as well as the child grant. And of those, 3.2 million are child grants, 1.7 million are old age grants, and then the balance is the others. And, just in terms of, you can imagine the scale of sort of trying to get all of that going and to get all of that running, and then to have a system upgrade affecting all of that. But in terms of the timeline, we kind of started seeing that there was an issue around the first or the second day of September's payment cycle. The first day was on the 5th of September. And then on the 6th of September, they released a statement saying that they had picked up issues, that is Postbank, and that they were dealing with it. And then on the 7th of September, they said that their systems were running optimally and everything should be fine, and the payments that needed to be reversed had been done. But then we started picking up that actually that isn't quite the case. And even at this post office in Shawela, there were lines that were going all the way back around here. And this is during the day when the post office was open, not even, before opening time. So it was very chaotic for those first 2 weeks. And then we had that briefing by the post office CEO, by the Sassa CEO, as well as the ministers. And since then, it's just been a bit chaotic. I think also just remember that at the end of the day, people still hadn't received their funding, even though messages were being given that actually funding had been received. So again, as October rolls around tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, we will have to see and watch and be on the ground to see whether everyone does get their funding and everything does go off without a glitch. Tumelo.
Well, thank you so much, Hloni. We'll leave it there for now. Hloni Mtimkulu following through with what's expected to be the next October pay cycle. Of course, we've heard from the Postbank saying that they will avoid the glitches that were experienced by beneficiaries in the past month, but we'll have to wait and see.